Welcome in a new video. This is the DraftKings NFL Week 2 Monday Night Football Picks. I'll be doing this. I don't know how often I'll be doing this. I'll be doing this when I have time. I wanted to get on here and do this because there's a 2-game slate tonight. If you guys know anything about me or if you've been around, the community here, the YouTube channel, you guys know I love when we get these smaller slates. When it gets to be the later season and we have those like 2-game or 3-game Saturday slates, or we get like the 3-game, like a Christmas Day slate, Thanksgiving Day slate. I love these smaller slates in NFL. So since we have 2 games on Monday Night Football tonight, I wanted to get on here, do a video. We're just going to run through. It's going to be a quick video. We're going to go through the slate, and I'll give some plays that I like for tonight. If you guys are interested in my core plays, who I'm playing in my lineup, and every other analyst that we have here at DFS Karma, you can get access to that by going to dfskarma.com/pricing. That gets you premium Discord access, my core plays for every slate, showdown, main slate, all that good stuff. Projections, all that. So hop in. You still have time to get in there for tonight if you want my core plays for tonight's slate. I'll do the full review of week 2 on the cash process tomorrow. So I won't go into that detail here, but I did get back on track and win cash games on both sites in week 2. So it was a good week. Looking to keep that momentum rolling into Monday night. So like I said, we have two Monday night games here. One kicks off at 7:15, which is the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. And then we have at 8:15, the Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Saints are 3-point favorites in a game totaled at 39.5, while the Browns are 2-point favorites in a game totaled at 38. If you have a premium Bet Karma access, which you can access at betkarma.com/pricing, I grabbed a 2-unit play. It was my first play of the week 2 week for betting. I grabbed a 2-unit on the Cleveland Browns Pittsburgh Steelers under 42. It is now dropped all the way down to 38. So we definitely got some good CLV there. That does not mean the bet will win, but you feel kind of good about the bet going into the game. So hopefully that one works out. But 2 games tonight. These are like weird games. Like they're both two low totals, 2 divisional matchups. So not really like the type of games on a normal DFS slate that we would probably be going out of our way to attack. But they're the only 2 games that we have to work with. So everybody will be using the same player base here. Starting off at quarterback, we have Deshaun Watson checking as the highest owned player at 6,400. We also have Derek Carr at 6K, Bryce Young at 56, and Kenny Pickett rounds us out at 5,400. Deshaun Watson was the only one of these 4 that had above 20 DraftKings points in week 1, and it wasn't really because of anything he did passing the ball. If you look at passing, a touchdown and a pick on 154 yards, 16 of 29, 55% completion. It's not very good. But he did add 5 for 45 and a touchdown rushing the football. And that was kind of something that we talked about coming into the season. We thought that there was a good chance that Deshaun Watson was really going to show off his legs in this Browns offense. And that seemed to be the case in week 1. It also was some pretty bad weather in week 1. It was raining the entire game. So, I think that had effect on him and Joe Burrow both throwing the ball in that game. So that's something to note. Derek Carr had a good game, 18 DK points. He passed for 305 yards, so he got the passing bonus, 23 of 33. Obviously, he's not going to add anything rushing, but he did have a good performance throwing the ball. Bryce Young got his first NFL start out of the way, 20 of 38, 52% completions for 146 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks, while Kenny Pickett, just a disaster for Kenny Pickett in week 1. I mean, they got absolutely steamrolled by the San Francisco 49ers. He threw for 232 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. It was not good for Kenny Pickett in week 1. So overall at quarterback, I think that it's kind of all going to come down to how you want to build your teams. I think that Obviously, I think Watson and Carr are the best plays here, but I don't think you need me to come on a video and like tell you that. I think it's kind of obvious. So I think it just comes down to what you want to do with your team. I will say, like, the Saints defense played really well against Ryan Tannehill in week 1. I'm curious to see how Bryce Young looks in this start here tonight. And Kenny Pickett, I want to say that he can bounce back, but he really, really struggled with the 49ers pass rush in week 1. And the Browns have I understand it's the Browns and people make fun of the Browns because they've been terrible for so long. The Browns defense is legitimately good. As long as they're healthy this year, they're going to be one of the best defenses in the AFC. And their pass rush is legit with Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, some of those other guys that they have over there. Really tough matchup again for Pickett. So you guys can do whatever you want, but I'm assuming Watson and Carr, once again, will be the highest owned plays on the slate. Moving on to running back. We have a big question mark here with Kendre Miller, who's listed as questionable. Luckily, this is the first game, so we'll definitely have this news prior to when we have to finish out our lineups. But as you can see here, Jamal Williams heavily featured in week 1, playing 49 of the offensive snaps compared to 9 total for Tony Jones and Kirk Merritt. Tony Jones and Kirk Merritt are essentially nothing. And if Kendre Miller's out again tonight, I don't see how you don't play Jamal Williams at 6K. So that's really the big injury thing that we're watching here. Like I said, luckily it's the first game, so we'll have that information. Starting off with Nick Chubb at 8,500. I believe he's the most expensive player on the slate. Yes, he is. Big game in week 1. He carried the ball 18 times for 100 yards. Did not add a touchdown, but 4 catches is big when you talk about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is not somebody that typically catches the ball, and there was a lot of speculation coming into the season that the Browns would be using him more in the passing game with Kareem Hunt off the team. So the fact that he caught 4 balls on 4 targets in week 1 is a big factor here. He is the most expensive player on the slate, but I don't see how you fade Nick Chubb tonight. There's a conglomerate of people in the DFS community that don't like to play Nick Chubb because he doesn't catch the ball and all this stuff. Nick Chubb is, as a pure running back, arguably the best running back in football, but he gets a big boost here with Pittsburgh. Cam Hayward is going to be out for the Steelers tonight. Cam Hayward, the Pittsburgh Steelers have really negative splits against the run when Cam Hayward is out. And the Cleveland Browns ran the ball 40 times collectively in week 1. Nick Chubb carried the ball 18 times. Jerome Ford, his backup, carried the ball 15 times. And then Deshaun Watson had 5 carries, and they ran 2 design runs for Elijah Moore. So they carry the ball a ton. They're going to run the ball a ton. So you would think that a team that is going to run the ball a ton, especially with Cam Hayward out, they are going to pound the ball tonight against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nick Chubb is the best play on the slate. I don't care that he's the most expensive play. I think you have to play Nick Chubb tonight on this 2-game slate, especially because there's really nobody else to spend up on. I like Chris Olave at 72, but everyone else is pretty cheap. So I think you can make some Nick Chubb builds work. So Nick Chubb is the best play on the slate for me. After Nick Chubb, we have Najee Harris at 62, Jamal Williams at 6K, Miles Sanders at 57, Chuba Hubbard at 5K, Jaylen Warren at 4,800. So, like I said, it's going to be very, very chalky on a 2-game slate. But if Kendre Miller's out, I think you start your build with Nick Chubb, Jamal Williams, and you just go from there. That's how I would do this. Jamal Williams didn't do much in week 1. 7.2 DK points, but as you know, he was going against Tennessee, basically the worst possible matchup for a running back. Much better matchup tonight against Carolina. So if Kendre Miller's out, you have to play Jamal Williams. If Kendre Miller's in, I still like Jamal Williams, but I would really be curious how much the Saints would use Kendre Miller in this game, given that he is like a legitimate game time decision. But Kendre Miller is very good. Looked very good in the preseason. Obviously, they drafted him for a reason. And if he's active, I'm not saying for like a main team, but if you're playing more than a few teams on this 4 games, like Kendre Miller would definitely be interesting to me at 4,400 if he was active. The Steelers guys, I'm not sure. I mean, there was a lot of speculation coming into the season that this was going to be like a Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard type situation, and that's kind of what we saw in Week 1. It was like a 55 to like 40% snap share between Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. I'm a little bit biased towards Jaylen Warren, as you can see here. He had 6 targets in Week 1. Didn't do much with them, but he does get some looks in the passing game. If they are losing, I think that could help the case for Jaylen Warren tonight. Not that I don't like Najee Harris, but would be tough for me to get excited about him at 6,200. Although I will say, I think that will be most people's assumption. Like most people, like I said, will be going Nick Chubb, Jamal Williams, and that's going to leave Najee Harris at 6,200 pretty low owned. So if you think the Steelers win this game, or if you think that the game stays close and competitive, and he didn't do much in Week 1, so the Steelers want to come out and get him going on Monday Night Football, Najee Harris at 6,200 is interesting for tournament formats. I'll probably be fading the Panthers guys here. Miles Sanders did okay in Week 1. It was encouraging that he had 18 carries compared to Chuba Hubbard only having 9 carries. He did lose a fumble, though, and if you know anything about Miles Sanders, he has problems. He's always had problems with fumbles during his time in Philly. So the fact that he already lost a fumble in Week 1 is a little bit discouraging. Jerome Ford's super thin play, but like I said, if you're playing a bunch of teams, given that he did have 15 attempts, he had 15 attempts in Week 1. Think about that. That is a legitimate role, and I think that's going to be the case tonight. So Jerome Ford at 4,400 is in play. Moving on here, wide receiver position. Chris Olave, 7,200. Amari Cooper is not expected to play. So that leaves Chris Olave at 72, Michael Thomas at 55, George Pickens at 54, and then Deontay Johnson's out. So we only have 3 wide receivers priced above 5K. Chris Olave will be super chalky, but really, really tough fade here as well for Chris Olave. Had 10 targets in Week 1, caught 8 of them for 112 yards. He played in the slot more than he has ever played in the slot in his entire NFL career. Almost 50% slot rate for Chris Olave in Week 1, which is a big factor, I think. Like if they're manufacturing touches for him and then putting him in the slot, letting him run free across the middle, really, really good outlook for him for the remainder of the season. I know that a lot of Saints people were really high on Chris Olave as just a breakout player this season. So Chris Olave, great play, going to be high owned, probably the highest owned receiver. I have nothing bad to say about him. Michael Thomas, I think, is very interesting. I definitely think people will play Chris Olave over him. I'm not sure how many people will play Chris Olave and Michael Thomas together, but Michael Thomas only had 11 DK in Week 1, but he did have a very good red zone role. He had a couple looks in the red zone, and I think on the field, it appeared to me that he still can play. So Michael Thomas at 5,500 is definitely interesting. George Pickens, I think people will want to play George Pickens because Deontay Johnson's out. I have a little bit of caution here with these Steelers guys. So this is a take that I gave on Sunday morning yesterday on the stream. And I also gave this take in Discord today. The Browns, the way that they're scheming their defense, what they did in Week 1 was they have really, really good corners in Denzel Ward and Emerson and Greg Newsome. So they put Greg Newsome in the slot this year. And kind of what they were doing is against the Bengals is we have really good corners and we have a really good pass rush. So we're just going to play man coverage. And if your guys can't beat us, our pass rush is going to just tee off on you. And that's exactly what they did against the Bengals. The Bengals did not score an offensive touchdown against them. They manned up Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which is not hard to do. Arguably the best wide receiver duo in football. And they just let their pass rush do what it does. And I'm assuming that that's exactly what they're going to do again tonight. Without Deontay Johnson, who is the best wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers, George Pickens, while I think is a good receiver, he's not someone that historically has graded well in terms of getting separation. Allen Robinson, at this stage of his career, is one of the worst wide receivers in football in terms of getting separation. So if these guys aren't able to get separation and the Browns just do what they did last week, they play man coverage on these guys and let Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and all those guys on the line do what they do, I think it's going to be another tough spot for Pittsburgh here. Now, I'm not saying that George Pickens can't have a good game. I think he can, especially if Kenny Pickett is willing to throw into tight coverage. George Pickens is one of the best contested catch guys in the league. That's what George Pickens is good at. The fact that he can't get separation at an elite rate and he's still a very good NFL wide receiver is because he's such a good contested catch guy. So I'm not saying that George Pickens can't have a good game, but I just have a negative outlook on the Steelers passing game tonight. I think it's a really bad matchup for them. If I was playing anyone from the Steelers, it would be one of the running backs, or it would be dropping all the way down here to Calvin Austin at 3,500. Calvin Austin has a little juice. 6 targets in week 1. He is a deep threat. So when you're talking about someone that's priced at 3,500 and they're a deep threat, that means that one play can pay off their price, which I definitely like on these smaller slates. And he was basically the direct backup to Deontay Johnson. He came in and played basically full time once Deontay checked out of that game. Calvin Austin at 3,500 is one of my favorite plays on this slate. I will have Calvin Austin most likely in my main lineup at 3,500. Another question mark here is what to do with the Browns situation with no Amari Cooper. Unlikely to play per Adam Schefter right there. Like I said, he's not going to play tonight most likely. So that gives us Elijah Moore at 4,500. That gives us Donovan Peoples-Jones at 3,700. You could drop even farther down. There's guys like David Bell that you could consider for the Browns, but I think most people will go directly to Elijah Moore, who I think is fine. Like I said, Elijah Moore got 2 rush attempts in week 1, so they are manufacturing him touches that way. I think you could see maybe some of that in the red zone if they get there tonight. So I think most people will go Elijah Moore. DPJ is more of like a deep threat, but obviously you would expect him right here. As you can see, led wideouts and offensive snaps. I think you could see a few more looks his way with Amari Cooper out. Amari Cooper in week 1 did see 7 targets. So, those targets have to, like, they ran the ball 40 times in week 1 and Amari Cooper still got 7 targets. So those targets are going to have to go to somebody. I think they'll be spread out between Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think Elijah Moore will be higher owned. DPJ, if you want to look at him in tournaments, like Calvin Austin, he's only 3,700, and typically he runs farther down the field, so one play could pay off that price tag. Rashid Shaheed, I think, is a good play as well, 4,200. No issues with him. I'll probably play 2 Saints receivers tonight, and it's between, I'll definitely probably be playing Olave, and then I'll be picking between Thomas and Shaheed. I'm wondering if more people will play Shaheed because he's cheaper, and they'll just simply click his game log and see that he had 20 DraftKings points in week 1. He played less snaps than Michael Thomas, but that doesn't matter because when he's on the field, he's going to get looks, specifically down the field. Good play. I like all these Saints guys tonight, honestly. And J.C. Horn is out for the Panthers, which is another big factor, their best corner. So that definitely boosts the Saints passing game even further. As for the Panthers guys, I don't know, man. I mean, DJ Chark, if he's in, would probably be my pick. Adam Thielen did nothing in week 1. He just looks really old out there. Terrace Marshall led the team in air yards percentage in week 1. And if you guys know anything about Terrace Marshall, that guy actually won me $10,000 on DraftKings last season. It was his only career touchdown. I played him and he won me $10,000. So I'm always biased towards Terrace Marshall. And he led the team in air yards percentage in week 1. So if I was looking for a Panthers player, if DJ Chark's in, I would be slightly interested. Terrace Marshall Jr. might be my pick at 33, and then you just hope he catches a deep ball, to be quite honest with you. Finishing up tight end, David Njoku, 4,700, Pat Freiermuth, 4,500, Juwan Johnson, 4K, 4,100, and Hayden Hurst at 4K. So those are the main tight ends for tonight. Hayden Hurst scored in week 1. Saints historically have played decent tight end defense, but it does look like Hurst is kind of like the safety net for Bryce Young. He had 7 targets. So, if that's if you want to play a Panthers player and you just want to go with Hurst, I don't hate that. Juwan Johnson is interesting. Only 5 targets in week 1. Not only 5 targets. That's a good amount for a tight end. He ran a route on over 80% of Derek Carr's dropbacks. And that's another player coming into the season. Saints, people were very, very high on Juwan Johnson. He has a good connection with Derek Carr. So maybe taking advantage of a poor week one from him, 4,100. I think Juwan Johnson is definitely interesting. Njoku is the guy. Maybe Njoku picks up a few of those extra targets from Amari Cooper. So he's interesting at 47. And then Freiermuth is a very good tight end at 4,500. Maybe that's who you go to in place of Deontay Johnson. All these tight ends are good plays, I think. I think it kind of comes down for me to whoever fits your lineup. If you want to get really weird, you could look at Taysom Hill. Wasn't as involved as you would think. 3 rush attempts, 1 target in week 1. I think that's more of like if you're playing the showdown slate, you could consider Taysom Hill rather than the 2-game slate. But yeah, I think tight end, it's whichever one fits your lineup tonight. And then finishing off at defense, Browns at 3,300. It's just the clear spot for me. I think that it's the best defense. If you want to take Saints, if you want to take Steelers, I think that's fine. But Browns at 3,300 definitely sticks out to me at defense. Overall, 20-minute video. Thank you guys for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you made it through the video, please leave a like on the YouTube channel. It definitely helps us out. And let me know in the comments if you guys like these shorter slate breakdowns. Maybe I could do some showdown videos moving forward. Let me know in the comments how you liked it. DFSkarma.com/pricing if you want access to my core plays for tonight's slate. With that being said, good luck on this 2-game slate, and I'll see you guys in week 3.